How do you handle disciplining your kids when you have 13 boys and 1 girl? If you're a mom or a grandmother, I think you're going to like this interview we did recently with Mom. Mom talks about the do's and don'ts of disciplining our large family. At the end of this sit-down interview with Mom, I'm going to come back and share my very favorite line from this whole interview. Mom has used this one before, and it always cracks me up, and especially the people who've never heard it before, they really get a kick out of it. So maybe you guys can tell me after the interview if you can guess what I'm about to say, but it's just a one-sentence line that I'll share with you.
What are some of the don'ts of punishing? Can you come up with any?
Well, I don't think you should ever do something that strips your child of his own self-respect or shames him.
Okay.
I mean, it's one thing, of course, he knows he did something bad for him to be ashamed, but the idea isn't to take away their pride or self-respect.
Yeah.
The idea is to help them live up to the high opinion of what God made them to be. And to, I don't know how many times I've felt really disappointed in someone's behavior, but to separate the sin from the sinner and to realize, honey, I still love you. I think you're great. I just think what you just did was pretty lousy, and how you just treated your brother.
Right.
Recently we were watching one of the videos of you guys being little, and our 3-year-old at that point saw a toy that the 1.5-year-old foolishly had in his hand. And so he just ran up to him in the backyard and just smashed him down on his face and grabbed out his hand. And I mean, it was easy as taking candy from a baby, because that's what he did. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he wanted it, and that made sense to him. Well, somehow I didn't think that looked so good. And right away, I'm after him, like, no, honey, you are not allowed, just because you're bigger and stronger, to take something away. You have to ask him, and why don't you get him another toy and trade with him? But you don't have to hurt him. Look, he's crying. You like, if your bigger brother comes up and smashes your face in the ground, but you have to take time to explain, not just yell at them, like, don't do that. To them, it did solve the problem. They got the toy. And you have to realize.
Good move in the short term,
Right. You have to kind of explain to them, how do you like if someone comes smash your face in the ground? If they're bigger than you, they can take all your toys away? Well, no, they didn't particularly like that idea. They just like being able to do it, but not having it done to them. And it might take a little more patience to explain to them why you wouldn't. That was a big deal for a little while. We had some biting going on in the family.
Biting.
Biting. I'm sorry. Chomping. And you get a little guy, and little guys' jaws are strong. Nursing, all that, they've got really strong little jaws. And if they bite you, I mean, they're almost breaking skin. And they don't know when to let go. And they don't feel any pain when they do it. And here you see this terrible chomp mark on a little guy and practically bleeding. And that person who did the body could almost get mad, because look, that one crying's getting them in trouble. What nerve? And it's like, honey, that hurts. He's crying, he's almost bleeding. And you made him. Should we bite you and see if you will bleed, and see if do you like it when that happens to you? That's terrible. You don't ever bite people. And on a couple of you guys, when you were little, biting was just like got to be a habit. And it's one of the few times I had to, but if they would bite right on their lips, not so much across their face, but right on their lips, no, we don't bite. Because they need to know what was the offending part. And they were too little to understand what they were doing. Hurt because it did hurt them. And they weren't connecting, that. It's just like when you're nursing a baby, you won't have this issue. When, a mommy's nursing a baby and they've got teeth, and they suddenly just decide to bite. It's a very natural reaction for mommy to scream when she's getting bit right there. That's one of the dumbest things you could do, because when I did scream, whoever it was would come up and chomp me again, kind of like to see if I was going to cry and scare them and make them cry. And it's like, how do you give us
limits?
It's like, Mom, you made me cry. I'm going to chomp. Don't you make me cry again, Mom. It's like, don't make me cry. But it's like, how do you reason with someone who doesn't have a brain yet? It's like, and so I just got to where, while he was kind of in that habit, that cycle, I had to just be ready. So while he's nursing, the minute you pay a little attention, you could tell he's just about to do, is just put my finger between his 2 gums. It would break the suction. And suddenly he wasn't nursing.
That's good.
And he'd kind of like, wait, I was nursing, what happened? And then they're just about to chomp, you do it again, and suddenly they're not nursing. And after a while, it's kind of like, every time I try to bite, I don't get to nurse anymore. Okay, that doesn't work. And they finally...
Bad outcome.
They go a different direction. And you can't punish a little person doing that. They're too little to comprehend. But you can make it not work. But you have to have the punishment work. It's kind of like what they say, make the punishment fit the crime. But it does. You can't reason with someone that little.
Right.
You know, they've got to realize the difference. They got to feel the difference.
Yeah. Are there any other don'ts to punishing? Any other things you would advise not be done?
Oh, well, I would be quick about it, especially the littler they are, because they aren't going to figure out what it was that they did that you're correcting for. So you have to be on the ball.
So don't not be quick.
That or just really keep your kids close to you and keep an eye on them. You know, if I'd go to someone's house, the little guys wouldn't get out on my side. They're not trustworthy at that age, and you can't just trust they're going to not get into someone's stuff. You don't even know what stuff they have out.
Right.
And to keep them near you.
Yeah.
And personally, I think kids should stay next to their parents in church.
Right.
Not if they're crying at that moment, you may have to take them off for a little bit, but to teach them how to behave and be quiet. And it's possible for kids to sit down and hold still, and they don't have to have a video game or their, you know,
whatever it is,
telephone or iPad or whatever. They don't have to have entertainment the whole time. They can learn just to hold still and have to behave. And I know for me, I needed to take you guys out once in a while. I don't know how much you remember, but every twice a month, every other week, we'd have go for a walk uptown. And that was maybe 7 blocks, 8 blocks. We'd walk by my mom's house and then go up to the library.
I remember that, yeah.
And get some books, maybe rent some videotapes at the time. We'd go sit across from the fire station, see if a fire truck would come out. It never did. But it gave me time to nurse whoever the baby was and change a diaper, and we'd watch. And you guys would just sit there in anticipation, because I told a good story about how any second now the fireman station would get loud and they go, woo, woo, woo. And you guys would just sit there like waiting and watching. And it never happened.
Maybe you want to go start a fire.
That's not the idea. And then we'd walk up to Ben Franklin, which was our local candy store, and you guys would each have your quarter or 50 cents you were allowed to buy candy with. And then we'd go up to the water fountain, our town square, and eat your sandwiches that I'd made, and you'd have to eat whatever I gave you and drink, and then you could have your dessert. And we'd play there for a little bit, and then we'd walk home, and then watch whatever movie. And it was a routine that was just a lot of fun for you guys. You got to practice how to pick which books and movies, how to be able to carry the stuff, how to pack the stroller, how to obey me and stay holding on to the stroller, depending on your ages. And then it helped me, because I'd be out there and I'd see, so many people would see you guys and just say how cute you were. And it helped me see, oh yeah, they're little. You know, when you're at home, you got the child so close to you, they look pretty big. But they're this big. And that close up, they look big, but when you see them on the ground, they're that high. And you just realize how little and squeaky they are, and how dopey, and how much they don't understand what's happening to the worm as it's crossing the sidewalk. It's kind of frying, and you know, it got me to slow down, not be busy doing laundry or cooking or cleaning, and just answer a whole bunch of questions. And it helped me to see how little you guys still were, and how adorable, and to remember why I was getting you guys to behave, because then I could take you anywhere. I got to where I took you guys to Six Flags by myself, all 14 of you guys, and that was, you know, without the bigger guys having to babysit. But that's because you guys learned how to behave, and then we could go anywhere and everywhere. So I think it's real important for parents to be close enough to their kids and to have control of their kids, so that they can do more fun, not so that they just give them freedom and forget about them and trust them, but to enjoy them, embrace them, and do a lot of fun things with them.
What sorts of things would you punish? Like, if someone broke a bowl, would you punish them?
Oh, well, yeah, if they took a bowl and they threw it up against the wall and broke it, But I mean,
if it's an accident.
Oh no, you don't punish for that. A lot of times you end up hugging them.
Because that's a mistake. That's not bad behavior. It's just a mistake. Okay.
That's just clumsiness and dopiness and not realizing gravity, and you can't put a bowl on the edge of the table and all. You know, you try to teach them, but the idea isn't to say, okay, what did that child do wrong? How can I get them? It's like when they need to improve their behavior, and when it's intentional. You know, we all do make mistakes.
So what are things that's something you wouldn't punish? What's something you especially would punish? I don't even mean hard. I would say, what are the important things to catch?
Well, I think a big thing is when they're saying mean things to each other.
Okay.
You know, siblings are great for each other. So, you know, playmates, they're having fun. But when they're saying something cutting or hurting, you're not allowed to say something to hurt someone else. It's the same as hitting them. You're not allowed to do that. And I know for us, you guys were having trouble with even pronouncing your words correctly, and you guys were trying to call each other idiots. I'm not sure what movie you saw that had the term idiot, but you kept calling each other.
We just knew it was a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were trying to call each other idiots. You called each other Indians, and calling an Indian wouldn't be an insult, except the receiver knew you meant idiot.
Right. It was the intent. Yeah.
Right. And so you guys weren't allowed to say Indians then, simply because you meant it as a way to hurt somebody.
Right.
And we don't have a right to be hurting people.
Yeah.
And, we can, to me, I think it's kind of terrible to teach your kids good manners that they only use for other people, and it's like your company manners. To me, those manners are what you need every single day in your own house. Yeah. You say please and thank you to each other too, and you don't just grab someone's toy. If there's a little guy who has a toy you're wanting, go see if there's another toy he might trade you for it, and see if he'll trade you. And if he doesn't, then maybe you bring it, say, hey Mom, I'd like to play with that. He has it. Yeah. And maybe Mom will tell you, well, you'll just have to wait, or I'll help you make a trade, or whatever. But you don't just hurt. We're not allowed to hurt other people, physically, emotionally, and in any way. And so to me, a big thing would be to watch how they were treating each other. And because I figured if you guys could practice on each other and learn good manners with each other, you'll always treat other people good.
Yeah.
And, because it's really what shows is what you do at home.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. It's a rehearsal for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't think to just grab something off someone else's plate.
Right.
And that'd be kind of embarrassing as an adult.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. You're just catching things early.
Right. And to me, I've seen people when their kids misbehave, then later on, we were at a church and some parents were saying, well, I don't want to, the next part I'm not inviting that family because their kids don't behave and their parents don't do anything about it. So they just didn't tell them why. They didn't tell them anything, but they just didn't invite them.
Yeah.
And to me, that kind of stuff's going to be happening to you, to your kids and all, unless you train your kids to be someone people want to have around.
Right.
And the idea isn't to try to get someone else to take your kids from you, but for you to embrace your kids and love them enough to train them so that they're the kind of people you could love and that other people could. And then people are welcoming them. They'll want them around. But you can't expect to take misbehaving kids over to someone's house and get invited again.
Yeah, right.
Unless you're, disciplining your kids and making them obey, because why would the people invite you again?
Sure, that's your responsibility, really. I mean, kids don't know. Almost like a leash law. You don't blame the dog, the puppy.
Right.
It's as the owner in that case, it's your responsibility to control the dog. And,
right. And people's reactions are like, why is that mommy telling them something? Well, I'm realizing, hey, I am that mommy.
Right, yeah.
And if I don't tell them, then they won't hear until later on. Then they're in school, and for some reason the principal's picking on them. And, now their wife doesn't understand them. And all these things, everything that keeps happening to them when they're totally innocent. Well, they weren't innocent, but no one pointed out to them that perhaps your behavior is causing this. Yeah. Maybe you need to change something. And I think that's maybe a little shocking in our world right now, where everyone is the victim. It's because they did to me, this person did that to me. It's like, oh, come on, guys. You can't fix someone else, but you can fix you. And what you're supposed to do is be responsible for yourself and your behavior, and other people be responsible for their behavior.
That brings up a good question. Do you ever see people or adults that you see a problem that you thought could have been caught in childhood? Oh,
always.
Can you give some examples?
Oh, constantly. About anybody you talk to these days, you're talking to, like they're victims. And that, everybody picks on me. I know we had a renter once. We were renting out our house, and they kept talking about how mean the housing authorities who were helping provide for their money, how mean they were to them and how rude. And everybody's always picking on them. And then I happened to get in between because I was helping the housing inspectors be able to see the unit. And I heard from the housing people, they never let us in when we come. They lock us out. They won't show up for the appointments, that, driving them crazy with disobedience, not showing up, not just doing the basic obeying the law. And about that point, cops are kind of scary when you've broken the law a lot of times, and sure, you'd be scared of them because they've got a right to do things to you. But it started with their disobedience. And it's really easy to blame everyone else for your behavior, but I don't think that works, and it doesn't work later on. Your boss isn't going to say, oh, you mean you prefer to sleep in later? It's like, sorry, our business starts at 9. If you're not here at 9, then you're no longer working here. And they're going to get punished. But I think it's better for them to get punished by their parents at home. So by the time they're adults, they've already adjusted for reality.
So that's a great point. So in a way, what you're doing is you're telling them how the world works.
Yeah.
But you're doing it in the most loving way. You know the kid. So you know exactly what he needs.
Right.
And you can do it with love.
Right.
But you're basically telling them what's going to happen later in life.
Right.
You're going to later have run-ins with your boss if you continue like this, or with the law, or whatever it is.
Or with gravity.
Yeah.
If they don't think gravity exists.
Yeah.
And it's not law, I made it up. I had nothing to do with making up gravity.
Right.
But gravity exists. You drop this, it's going to fall down.
Right.
And I'm sorry it's going to fall down. And that's the big thing, like with temper tantrums with little kids. They'll, I like little kids so much. I like how dopey they are and how little brain and how they're, the way they think and try to talk. But when they're melting down and having a temper tantrum, a lot of times because they want to do something, and you said that word to them, that's called no. Ooh, and that's really hard for them.
Yeah,
and
no word.
Yeah, and to me, I don't see anything wrong with picking up that child, and while he's screaming, crying, he has to have his way, and just say, no, honey, you aren't going to get to do that. I know you really want to. I know, but you're not going to. But I know. I'm so sorry you want to. You'll get used to it. I'm so sorry. I love you, sweetie.
Yeah.
But no, we're not going to do that. I'm not letting you do that.
Yeah.
And you're not ever going to do that. Right. But I know you're so disappointed, and help them through the disappointment. Right. And if they can't control themselves, well, you just take them further from the audience that they're getting, and just let them cry their little hearts out and be hugging them. I know. I wish I could do everything I want to, but I can't. I had to go to jail then, or I'll get a punishment. Yeah. And I don't want you to get punishment. But if I have to punish you, if you keep doing that, I will punish you. I hope you don't make me have to punish you, but I will. Because I want you to learn the truth.
One thing I think you guys did a really good job of is I don't think you ever punished or didn't punish based on your mood.
Right.
So if you were having a bad day or whatever, you didn't give us extra punishments.
No.
And then if you were feeling extra good, you didn't let us off the hook either.
Well, how confusing that would be to a child.
Exactly.
And and not just that.
You'd feel, I think, pretty unstable. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like your parents are lying then.
Right.
They're not being truthful. And yet I notice also there'd be times when something was going on that you guys wouldn't know about that was really upsetting, and where I would just feel so emotional, so crying, and I wasn't trying to have you guys see it, but you would. And I noticed that me being upset, pretty soon I'd see one of you guys being upset with the other one, and another one being upset, and soon everybody's kind of fighting at each other. Yeah. And I can see there's something to say about that, saying if mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Yeah, true.
And I don't think that's saying, oh, well, if your mom's a crab, she's going to make sure you're all crabby. But I think there is something to say that a mom she's in a position to
set the tone in a way.
In a way to control what your house smells like, and what it feels like, and the general feeling of your house. Yeah. Like, I happen to like a certain smell of our fabric softener and laundry soap, and I always use that. I would suspect our house probably smells a little bit of that because I like that smell.
You can help but have the whole attitude sort
of. Yeah. And different times when I wanted everybody to kind of feel more at home or more happy, I would just get some bread baking or some brownies or something that would smell really good, cinnamon rolls or something that would smell really good.
I always like your brownies a lot.
Yeah. Well, that, or like even having soup cooking on a hot or a real cold day, to smell vegetable soup cooking throughout the house, and even it's taking hours to cook. Yeah. Just kind of that secure feeling that someone's thinking ahead and looking out for me, and that kind of, I think, gives kids that security, and it's kind of like being near a fire. Kind of the kids want to come near, and so I think it's important for mothers especially to embrace being a mom and embrace being in charge of how your house looks and how it smells. And if you don't like how it looks, do something about it, and establish a place for everything, and then let everybody know where that place is, and then make a rule of putting the things there, and then you can always find everything, and you don't have that chaos that goes on. I heard so many mothers be very upset, like, everybody expects me to know where everything is in the house. And it's like, well, the thing is, they're probably going to keep doing that. They're going to keep expecting that somehow you're going to know. why don't you establish a place for each thing? And then make them have to do it too, like all towels, go here, honey, this towel, go put it away. You don't have to tell them where, because eventually, you initially tell them, of course, but all towels go here, and all Jell-O goes there, and all utensils here, and dirty laundry goes there. And once you've got that established, you can hold them to it, so you don't have to do it all the time, but you get to do it the way that feels comfortable to you. So that's not such a bad thing, because you get to pick too. So to me, a whole lot of things in life, if you look at it from another angle, you're saying thank you instead of grouching about it. You know, like I'd like to thank God that I get to pick where things go in this house, and whether it feels more natural to you for the cups to go here and the utensils there, it doesn't matter, because it's my house, and the utensils are going here and the cups are going there, and you'll just have to get used to it. But I think that's kind of a secure feeling for little kids, because it's like someone's looking out for me, and someone's keeping me secure and watching out for all the details in my life.
A lot of people ask us about discipline, you know, when you discipline a kid. I can attest that you did not spare the rod. Actually, I was spared the rod. Yeah, that's true. Just for the record, nothing like that. But
my right hand did pretty good.
Yeah, right. No, actually, you weren't. I was teasing, of course. But you would discipline us, and you know, I never thought I would say this, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But a lot of people struggle with that, and sometimes I even get questions about that. I'm not a parent, but about how you approach discipline for your kids. It's kind of a broad question, but just to start with that, how do you approach discipline?
Well, to me, discipline your child is making them into someone who you would like, because you're going to automatically love your kids. You're going to want them to turn out wonderfully, but overindulging them and kind of teaching them different than what they're going to find in the real world is not doing them a favor. If you get to where you don't like your own kids because of the way they behave, you can't really expect other people to like them. If they're always getting their own way, if they're able to manipulate or anything like that, they're going to continue doing that in life. And to me, I'd like them to learn all their lessons while I'm there, because I do love them. And I'll be there to hug them, and you know, when I discipline them, make sure they stop doing whatever. Then afterward, they're always real hugging, loving, like they're so sorry, and pretty soon we're the best of buddies, and they feel more loved. But they know that I really care how they'll turn out later. I don't want them to end up going to jail and
then learn the discipline.
To learn it there, and to go into the Army and then learn discipline. It's like, I'll teach it to them where there's love also, you know.
Well, okay, then when do you discipline? Or when would you punish a kid?
Well, depending on the age, but with little people, you gotta have it right away. You can't wait till daddy gets home, or wait till I think about, 2 years from now I'm going to punish you for that. It has to be right away. They've got to know what it was they did wrong, and that's what they're not allowed to do. And I think one of the hard things for parents is to be worried about being embarrassed themselves if their child needs disciplining. Of course, you don't beat on your child. You don't be hurting them. But if they're across the room doing something naughty, you have to get off your bottom and get over there and not let them do it, and to correct them. And you always try the least thing that's necessary. And some of you guys, some of them, if I just kind of said, gave a look, they would stop.
I remember that.
They would stop immediately.
Right.
And other ones, you give them a whole lot of looks, it doesn't do a darn bit of good, and you got to get over there and give them a little pat on their bottom, just depending on what they need. And to do the least, you have to do, but the idea is for them to obey. And I remember with actually our youngest, David, during one of his last parts of his teenage rebellion, we were already in this house. He's a lucky kid getting to grow up in this house. But he was misbehaving, and at the time, the punishments changed around. It had to be what was working, just like medicine, the doctor changes what works. But for him, I'd have him go up and down the steps when he did something naughty. Before then, he'd have to sit on the steps next to me in the kitchen. But then that wasn't working that good. He kind of liked sitting there on the steps. And
they're carpeted,
Right. And so I told him, well, he had to go up and down the steps. And I forgot what it was I told him to do. And I said, honey, you've got to go do that. And he refused. I said, well, then you have to go up and down the steps 5 times. He goes, Mom, that's not going to work. And I said, oh, shoot, well, then you have to do it 10 times. He goes, Mom, that's not going to work. And I said, okay, well, that's a shame.
Deeper.
I know, I guess you'll have to do it 50 times. He goes, Mom, that's not going to work. I said, well, then I guess you'll have to do it 100 times up and down. He goes, okay, I'll do it.
That might work.
They did it. And the thing of it is, he didn't have to do any of the steps up and down.
Yeah.
He just had to obey.
Right.
And whatever it took for him to have to obey is what I'd have to do. And he knew I was going to stand there and watch him do it 100 times up and down. And then when he got back 99, 100, were you still stubborn, or are you willing to obey me?
Right.
You don't have to go through the punishment if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You can just obey.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're going to obey.
Right.
And that's the trick.
Yeah. One thing I can say that you guys always did is you were consistent. And I can't remember any time where you threatened a punishment that you didn't give.
Yeah.
And I think, just to editorialize myself, I think that's really important, because parents a lot of times will threaten things they are not willing to back up or couldn't back up. And then they're losing credibility.
Right,
I mean,
that's a big thing.
Because kids aren't dumb. Kids are inexperienced, but they aren't dumb. They'll just know practically, wait a minute, when this is said, it doesn't happen. It isn't done.
Right.
Yeah.
What if you want your kids to believe you? If you want them to believe you when you tell them about Jesus and all the good news, they got to be able to believe you all the time. And I had a friend of mine, when she had her kids over, and then she wanted to leave, rather than to make them obey her and come. And I'm glad they were having so much fun, they didn't want to leave. But she would threaten to leave. I'll leave without you. And the first couple of times, the kids would come running because Mom was going to leave without us. Yeah. And then after a while, it's like, you know, if they didn't come, Mom waited, and if they didn't come, okay, I said, I'm going to leave without you. It lost its potency.
Right.
And it kind of broke my heart when I thought about what she's threatening is, hey, I'm going to desert you.
Right.
I'm going to just leave you, and you're going to be lost, and you're just going to be out there among the wolves. I'm just going to leave you unless you come. Well, you're threatening the child with their worst fears.
Right.
And also, as you aren't honestly going to do that, you're teaching them not to believe what you say.
Right.
And so to me, I think what you need to do is tell them, honey, I'm going to count to 3, and if you're not here, you're getting punished. And then 1, 2, 3, okay, now you're punished. And then you have to follow through, which is embarrassing. You're around another mom, and oh no, my child did something wrong. Oh, you've got the perfect child. It's like, no, the thing is when you're the mom and that child's misbehaving, other parents would much rather see you correct that child than to let the child get away with it, because the other parents aren't allowed to correct your child. And that person's just going to be a little brat, and they won't have them over next time.
You're the only one who has the right to, really.
You're the only one with the authority. And so you need to take that authority and make them obey you. But then once they know that they have to obey you, and you're going to go ahead and make them obey you and embarrass them in front of other people where they see themselves getting punished or corrected in front of a crowd, then you usually don't even have to ever do it publicly after that, because the kids believe you. And so when you start to look at them, and I got to where, when I was with you guys, we went out someplace, let's say we're at a church, a prayer group, or some bigger gathering, you're across the room. And if I gave you a look and you guys didn't stop whatever you're doing or start doing whatever you were supposed to, you knew I would stop whatever I was doing and walk over there and make you obey or take you out of the room, which would be embarrassing to me, but be more embarrassing to you guys. And honestly, I finally learned to realize I should be embarrassed if I didn't do that. If I didn't care enough about how well you guys were behaving, that I'd let you get away with it. What would other people think? You know, this way, they knew that if those kids were misbehaving, they would get in trouble, and they'd stop misbehaving, and they wouldn't get in trouble anymore, and the problem would be solved.
Right. You know, I know you've mentioned before that it actually creates security.
I think so. I always thought of it kind of like, I think little kids don't know where the danger is and where there is, and you can't really explain to them about strangers. You can't explain to them about a lot of things. But to me, when you're saying you can do this, but you cannot do that, and you just make it a rule, it's kind of like having a fence. Where your backyard's fenced in. On the outside, there's dangerous animals or whatever danger, but on the inside, they can play all they want in there and not get hurt, and they know they're safe. But then they know if they go beyond that, they're in danger. And for them to know that you're going to enforce that they cannot go past this line, and for them just to learn their own self-control, because they're going to need that all over in life. You know, when they get married, when they have a family, they're going to be able to control themselves. It's a good time for them to start learning it young.
What would you say to someone who maybe, you know, I can understand that in the heat of the moment you might over-promise a punishment, or you might say things you can't follow through on. What would you say someone who has, in a way, upon reflection, thinks maybe they did lose a little credibility with their kids? what do they just now start being consistent, or should they apologize to the kid? Should they say, hey, you know, I didn't mean it last time, but I really do mean it this time? What would you advise?
Well, I've learned that the hard way. A lot of this stuff, remember, I've had 14, so I've had a little practice, and I've been blessed to be able to be at home with my guys. And so I learned a lot of things doing it the wrong way, and what works and what doesn't. And there's nothing wrong with mommies and daddies apologizing. And
so you don't think that's a sign of weakness?
No. In fact, that's strength. I want them to be able to apologize. But say, hey, honey, I was too mad last time, and I promise to give you a punishment much worse than you deserve for what you did. What you did was wrong, and I don't ever want to see you do that again. And I will punish you next time. But that was too big of a punishment. So I've learned now, when I'm really upset and they did something really wrong, I let them know, okay, you're in trouble now. You're getting punished. Now just sit here, and when I decide what your punishment will be, I'll let you know. It doesn't hurt for the child to suffer a little, not knowing. You don't have to answer that minute, and give yourself a chance to cool off. But then make sure it's something you can follow through on. You're not going to not let them eat for 2 weeks. Good grief. Exactly. You're not going to make them stand on their heads. I mean, you know, and remember, it's going to have to stand up to the light of day in front of whoever else you're going to see, your husband, other kids, you know, whatever. It's got to, the punishment should fit the crime. And really, to me, I think the punishment should be the smallest one that'll work. You don't, the idea isn't to say, oh, good, now I get to hit somebody. You know, that's horrible. Well, the idea is to just solve the problem. And if it only takes a little turn of a screwdriver, that's all you needed to fix something. You don't keep doing it more. It just makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. And for the record, you never did hit us. I just want to make that clear. You know.
Well, your bottoms maybe met with my hand a few times, but not too often. I
think it was just when we were really young and we didn't really know any other language. We'd get a little spanking. That's about it.
Right, and that once you knew that I was going to follow through, I didn't have to. You know, it's just when you've got the reputation of keeping your authority and saying, yeah, honey, whatever it is, you're going to obey me. And however much punishment I have to give you, I will do it, but you're going to end up doing what I say. But then you let them know how much you love them. And I think a real key thing is for parents to get involved with the kids and play with them and get them busy doing a bunch of good things that they're allowed to do. You can't just say, nope, you can't do that. Nope, stop doing that. Nope, stop doing that. And the only attention you give your child is when they're doing something bad. It's going to encourage them to be bad because little kids need attention. You think about how many times have you heard, hey, mommy, watch this. Mommy, look at me do that. They'll do that doing something bad if you're not paying attention when they're doing something good. Well, I got to where especially with homeschooling, we'd have times where every time we're doing school, someone would get a good idea, oh, we ought to do this sometime or this. And they'd have all these great ideas that it wasn't time to do it then. But I just kept a list, an ongoing list for what to do. Okay, a list for Sundays and summers when the day gets really long and I can't think of anything to do. And I had all those good ideas saved up. And then try to stay ahead of you guys. And like just recently we had a good sized group of kids over here for a prayer group, which was wonderful, and they're really cute kids. But there were just so many things they weren't allowed to do. Well, finally, it's like, I just realized, well, we got to give them something they are allowed to do, and now I'm ahead of them. Next time they come, I've got a whole bunch of different ideas and games, things I did with you guys when you were little sewing crafts they could do, with yarn, little puzzles or beads that we turned into ornaments. You guys remember those?
I do.
Things like that little kids can handle doing, where they get creative and it makes them want to hold still, but you can't just say, okay, here it is, go have fun. You have to be near them and say, oh, wow, hey, that's a good idea. Now, how'd you do that? Oh, neat.
You have to keep them occupied.
And get feedback till they get so confident and they get creative enough that they can do it without you a little bit. But it does, you have to devote yourself to your kids, but then they turn out to be your best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my favorite line from that interview. Okay? And you guys have to put in the comments if you have the same one that I have or not. I know it was a pretty long talk, so you might not remember everything, but let me know if this one stood out to you or not. But I liked her line where she says, it's hard to reason with someone who doesn't have a brain yet, and referring to us as little kids. I'm, of course, the oldest, so I've been around since the very beginning. And I remember many times Mom saying that. And the way she says it is such a affectionate, joking way of saying it that people just love it. People, other mothers and other people who hear it have really gotten a kick out of it. And it's not the kind of thing that she's like, proudly saying this one-liner. It's just something that she kind of thinks about in the moment. I've heard her say it a number of times over the years. And it's a great description. I mean, that's what we are when we're little kids. When you're dealing with little kids, you have to remember that, not to get angry or have an argument with them as if it's another adult. You know, you are dealing with a little kid. You're the one supposed to lead the situation.